Thanks to first-hand accounts, this program tells the story of women who were part of Italy's Camorra Mafia. Some chose to collaborate and are now protected in secret locations. Other women opted not to collaborate with the state and are currently serving their full sentences in jail.
One day, he told me I had to learn how to shoot. Well, I was more than willing. I was looking for revenge. I wanted to be respected by the person who had treated me so badly, who had pushed me around and spat in my face. I wanted him to look at me and change his mind. I wanted him to be afraid of me, just like I had feared him in all those years. My name is Patrizia Franzese. I was a member of the Cirella clan, and I'm currently a law enforcement informer.
Patrizia Franzese was born in the late 60s in a town near Naples. She comes from a poor and large family. A family which Patrizia would never really get to know.
I was born in Casoria. I'm the fifth of 10 children. When I was 2, I was sent to a boarding school run by Franciscan sisters. My father didn't believe I was his daughter, so I was sent to boarding school. There was a woman who looked after me. She wasn't really a nun. Her name was Vincenza, and she had decided to retire to this boarding school. Since I was the only small child in the convent, I was in her care.
Patrizia could only count on her affection until she turned 14. That was when the same family which had abandoned her decided to take her back home.
Patrizia Franzese left the boarding school she had entered as a child to come home to a house where more or less 10 other people lived. The family context was precarious, and Patrizia felt like a stranger.
My behavior was very different to theirs, since I was used to the boarding school rules. I spoke good Italian. I talked in a different way, and so I was, let's say, left out. I didn't get any affection, none at all. No hugs, no kisses, ever. I asked my mother a couple of times if I had been born by accident, or why she didn't love me, but she never answered. Same thing with my father. He was a very narrow-minded person. He never showed his feelings. That's how it was. We didn't have a relationship.
Patrizia can only hope for a better future. A future without abuse, where she would continue her studies and find fulfillment. Little did she know that something very different was awaiting her.
To counteract her Catholic schoolgirl attitude and ladylike manners, she was forced to work as a housekeeper for a man to whom she had virtually been sold.
My mother owed this man money, 700,000 lira. She couldn't afford to pay it back. But he had seen me and asked her to make up for her debts by handing me over to him.
She thought she was just going to work to pay back her mother's debts, but that was only partly true. She had been totally let down by her family.
I was only 14 years old. Never in my life had I cooked or, for instance, bought groceries. I knew nothing about that. Not to mention sex. I knew nothing about that either. So I really found myself in a living hell.
In un inferno.
My eyes were regularly swollen and my bones were broken because he beat me with a club and hurt me with a rifle. I took a lot of beatings, but I never pressed charges because I was scared. He said that if I told on him, I would end up on the street and become well, I would end up on the street.
For many long years, Patrizia endured this kind of abuse. She was repeatedly raped and became pregnant.
When I had my first child, I was 19, and the second when I was 22. I more or less made sure I got pregnant with my first daughter. Not because I loved that man, but because I needed something or someone to hold on to, so I could find the strength to go on. When I couldn't take it anymore, I tried to tell him that I'd had enough, that I wanted to live my life. He took my head in his hands and hit it on the ground many times. I passed out, and when I woke up, I was in hospital. I stayed in hospital for 8 or 9 days, and when I learnt I would be discharged, I asked the nurse not to tell anyone about it. I really wanted to get away. So early in the morning, I signed my discharge papers and left. I ran away and went to my cousin's house.
After almost 10 years in the hands of that man, Patrizia finally found the courage to leave him. A brave choice, but it forced her into an equally difficult reality. After her escape, her former partner sent her children to a boarding school.
I tried to put my life back together again. I found myself a job, and on Saturdays and Sundays, I went to see my children. My idea was to save some money so I could rent an apartment and get my children out of the boarding school. But every Saturday and Sunday, he would always be there, threatening to kill me or to hide my children from me. He threatened me all the time.
Patrizia could only clench her teeth and do everything she could to get custody of her children. She didn't know fate had something very different in store for her.
I was working as a caregiver, and on my day off, I went to my cousin's house. I was at the bus stop when I saw this young man passing by. He looked at me, he stopped, got out of his car and tried to strike up a friendship. He was a handsome guy. with dark blonde hair, tall. He was very nice, very intriguing.
Intrigante.
He gave me his phone number and asked for mine. But I didn't call him because I had other things on my mind. After 4 or 5 days, he called me at work and asked me why he hadn't heard from me, and he said, "Shall we go and have a coffee?" Since it was the weekend and I didn't have to see my children, I said, "All right, let's go."
After resisting him for a while, Patrizia accepted his invitation and allowed herself some leisure time. And right there, sitting in a cafe, she found out who this young man who was courting her really was.
He told me he was the nephew of Antonio Egizio, and that after his uncle's death, he had taken his place.
He told her he was going to be a Camorra boss. His uncle had died, and he had to take on his uncle's business, and he would try to not make his mistakes.
He told me that he had already started with some minor extortions, but had to move on to bigger things to establish his supremacy in the area of Pomigliano, Casalnuovo, and Taverna Nuova.
This young man was Aniello Cirella, and although he was only 20, he knew exactly what he wanted for his family's future.
During the 90s, the Cirella family from Pomigliano d'Arco were trying to establish themselves in that territory.
Che cerca di affermarsi sul territorio.
Are you going to pay up?
Sure, here it is.
What took you so long? You're nothing but a bunch of morons.
Aniello era il capo clan.
Aniello was the head of the clan.
In maniera diretto.
He was the one who directed the rise of the Cirella clan.
When he told me about all of this, I wasn't worried at all. I didn't think I had to stay away from this person or something like that. No, quite the opposite. Maybe I thought he was the only person who could help me overcome this period and put an end to the threats and violence I was enduring. So I told him my story, and right away he said, "From now on, I guarantee he won't hurt you anymore."
Aniello was no boasting teenager. He gave his word as a mafia boss, a word that sounded like a verdict.
The following day, he asked me where the father of my children lived. So I told him.
He was going to get beaten and probably kneecapped, because Aniello had ordered a severe punishment, something the beast, as he called him, would never forget. Incidentally, Patrizia's former partner drove by with one of their children on that day.
They said, "Thank your child for being there, or you wouldn't have got back home. Never pass through Casalnuovo again." I was only looking for revenge. I wanted to be respected by the person who had treated me so badly, who had pushed me around and had spat in my face. I wanted him to look at me and change his mind. I wanted him to be afraid of me.
Patrizia Franzese trova l'uomo che la protegge.
Patrizia Franzese has found a man who is willing to protect her. She also understands the power of her man's job, the things he is capable of doing, and that seems to set her free from her past. It was probably after this event that the new Patrizia Franzese was born.
Nasce la nuova Patrizia Franzese. Patrizia Franzese started a sort of new job as his assistant. Aniello introduced her at the Camorra meetings and at his meetings with business partners. He even took her along on his visits to shop owners to extort money.
We discussed where we needed to go to extort money, which construction sites, or we talked about drug deals, the streets, the contracting agreements, and so on. From the very first moment, he told me he trusted me. I followed him. We were always together. Wherever he went, I went.
Aniello wanted Patrizia to be with him all the time. He showed her his business, he introduced her to his contacts, he wanted her advice. Although he had known her for less than a month, Aniello had no doubts. Patrizia was ready to become a member of the clan.
Aniello wanted to know, have you ever fired a gun?
He asked me if I had ever seen a handgun. I said no. I had seen rifles, but not a handgun. He took me to the construction site where we met Umberto Gallo, whom everyone called the president. He put up a wooden board at a distance and gave me a handgun, a 921. He told me, look at the board and think of the person you hate most. Well, I couldn't wait. I hit the target 3 times out of 5.
Aniello was all the more convinced of his choice. Patrizia was the right person, not only for the clan, but also to share his life with.
One night, he asked me if I wanted to... He said he liked me a lot. He wanted to stay with me, but I said no. Not because I didn't like him. I had other plans. My goal was to get my children out of that boarding school. He told me to find myself a house, and when I'd found one, he rented it for me. He bought the furniture, and he gave me a car, so I could prove that I was capable of taking proper care of my children.
Patrizia wanted to be worthy of his presence. She wanted to find her own role in society, and she didn't want to achieve it just by sleeping with Aniello Cirella.
I felt like I had to earn what he had given me, but not in his bedroom. I wanted to set myself free by doing him a favor.
Patrizia wanted to earn the trust of the clan boss. She wanted the opportunity to prove she would live up to his expectations, an opportunity that would soon arise.
At the time, you proved your worthiness by committing a murder, by eliminating someone who had become a nuisance, someone who belonged to a different clan but tried to lay his hands on your construction sites. A decision was made to kill Raffaele Bianco.
See this guy? I want him dead.
Bianco era un esponente del clan.
Bianco was a member of the Rea clan.
Avevano decretato.
They decided he had to be killed because of their conflicting interests, which meant he was operating on the same territory as they were.
Gli affiliati operanti su quel territorio.
One guy signed up to keep watch, but there was still one person missing. So I said, "I'll do it. I'll go." He said, "Well, I know you can shoot, but I'm not sure." I told him to try me. About 2 weeks went by. He called me and said, "You have to disguise yourself, so if someone sees you in Castelnuovo, they won't recognize you." I prepared myself, and me and the other person started making plans to complete our assignment.
Patrizia and her partner drive to Castelnuovo, where their target has been spotted. Raffaele Bianco is at his mother-in-law's. That's where he will be eliminated. But there's a problem. There's a little girl with Bianco and the woman.
We couldn't carry out our task. There was that little girl. So I thought I should make him come out onto the street.
That's when Patrizia had her eureka moment, a stroke of criminal genius paired with an impressive clarity of thought. She approached her target and asked for directions.
I asked him, "Excuse me, could you tell me where Via Roma is?" He said, "This is Via Roma." I pretended to leave, but I went back. "Could you please show me where it starts and where it ends?" Pasquale drew his gun immediately. He saw the gun and started running away. He did hit him, but he had run out of bullets. All I know is that I fired a shot and he stopped moving. I had killed a man, but I can't say that I felt remorse or anything like that. I was excited, full of adrenaline. I don't know, but I felt nothing, as if nothing had happened.
Aniello had won his bet. In a few months, he had managed to turn a shy and introverted young woman into a killer at the service of the clan. A killer everybody was talking about in Pomigliano now.
After Raffaele Bianco's murder, everyone was asking about the woman who fired a gun in Castelnuovo, because it was the first time that a woman had done anything of the sort. Aniello told everyone, "All you need to know is that she belongs to me. There's no need to introduce you to her."
But Aniello was not satisfied yet. To make his relationship with Patrizia perfect, something was still missing.
One night, I was at home. He called and said that they were going to be busted that night. He said, "Can I come over and sleep at your house? I promise I'll behave." I accepted. At the time, I only had one bed, so we had to share it. He asked me whether he could kiss me. And I said yes.
Se mi poteva baciare e io gli dissi di sì.
Well, we made love. And after we made love, he asked me to stay with him forever.
For the first time in her life, Patrizia has found love.
Can I tell everyone we're together?
And a family which respects and protects her and makes her feel important. So she decided to introduce someone from her old life to the newfound family.
I got back in touch with my brother Carmine by chance. I called my cousin, and she told me that Carmine was practically homeless. My brother was addicted to heroin. He started when he was very young and was totally addicted. So I asked Aniello to lend him a hand, give him food, buy him cigarettes so that he didn't have to go stealing.
But it's not just her brother's problems that are giving Patrizia headaches. There's a much bigger problem which hurts badly.
My relationship with my children when I started living with Aniello was almost non-existent. Their father had hired a lawyer when he found out that I was living with Aniello, because he knew who Aniello was. The family court summoned me in front of a magistrate. He told me that there were documents proving I was living with people who had less than satisfactory records. The father of my children had decided I shouldn't be seeing them for their own safety.
Patrizia was facing the most difficult ordeal of her life. The distance to her children was likely to become an unsustainable burden, at least until she found out she was expecting a daughter with Aniello. The news changed everything, including Patrizia's role within the clan.
Aniello told me, from now on, you'd better stay at home. You're pregnant. You might put our baby at risk. So we decided I would only be operating behind the scenes.
Aniello decided to give his girlfriend a low-profile but still strategic and essential role. He still needed her advice on how to manage the proceeds of money extortion and drug markets.
To make money, we started pushing some hash that I would cut at home, dividing it into small pieces. But we didn't make much with that. It only attracted the attention of the police, so we decided to push cocaine as well.
Patrizia became an expert on chemical processing. She spoke with great ease about lidocaine and mannitol. She managed to even make 3 doses out of 1, never jeopardizing its quality, as she liked to specify. Otherwise, they would make people unhappy, would lose customers.
Oltre a farci finire sotto la pelle di qualcuno, si perdono anche I clienti.
We made lots of money. We always had plenty of that. I never knew the exact amount, but we had lots and lots.
Thanks to Patrizia, the Cirella family business kept growing, and the prestige of their boss too. Aniello was not some junior chief anymore, but had become a real mafia boss, respected by the other clans as well.
Aniello had really managed to prove his worth. Considering his age, he had really proven his worth. He was invited by the Belforte clan because they wanted to get to know him. They wanted to see him, find out what he thought.
In the late 90s, the Belforte clan was not just another clan, but one of the most powerful throughout the whole Campania region. It was worth discussing things and making alliances with such a clan.
The Belforte clan called Aniello and asked him to do them a favor and join a hit squad in Marcianise to kill someone from a rival clan. His name was Piccolo.
Uno del clan rivale dei Piccolo.
But their target wasn't just a member of that clan, but its boss himself, Achille Piccolo. A boss who was protected and guarded 24 hours a day.
They tried to figure out how they could enter the house, because it's not easy to break into a house. The best bet was to pretend Aniello was a surveyor, a technician. So he showed up at Piccolo's house as an engineer who was building a school where someone had asked for protection money.
But something in the setup of the ambush had gone wrong. Someone among the Belforte contacts had betrayed them. The Piccolo family had been tipped off.
The news shocked me. My whole life was shattered because I'd lost everything. He had been my life, my everything. A horrible moment.
Aniello's murder at this very young age marks the first downfall of Patrizia's criminal ambitions. She had lost her love, she had lost her partner in crime. The person with whom she had set up a small criminal empire and their whole project fell apart.
A project which nevertheless must move on, although nothing would ever be the same again.
After Aniello Cirella's death, the clan was run by Modestino, his father, and by a man called Michele. Both were violent men who were not particularly bright.
Therefore, the drug dealing business, or the money extortion, whatever Aniello had set up, was now run by his father. The truth is, I didn't care about it anymore. I handed all the money over to him. He started running the business, but it wasn't the same.
Aniello's death left a void that seemed impossible to fill. Their rival clan, the Rea family, wanted to take advantage of the situation and tried to take over the Cirella's main extortion businesses, among them the Russo pasta factory.
Il gruppo Rea si presentò a chiedere la tangente.
The Rea group showed up asking for extortion money, which they were already paying to the Cirella group. The contact man from the pasta factory told the Cirellas that a green Fiat had shown up at the factory with 3 members of the Rea clan. He said that they were all wearing white t-shirts. He had made an appointment with them for shortly after lunch.
Le ore immediatamente post pranzo.
Modestino l'aveva saputo.
Modestino heard about it, and they decided to kill them. So a hit squad was set up. I remember Modestino asked me to participate, but I declined. I didn't feel a part of that anymore. That war was not my war anymore, and I said no.
This war was different. This time there was something very important at stake.
This was a major criminal deed. First of all, because they planned the murder of more than just one person, but mostly because it was the first important action in which her brother Carmine participated as a member.
The Cirellas had positioned 2 guys on the lookout near the pasta factory. They were supposed to signal the arrival of the car with the 3 victims. When they saw 3 guys in white t-shirts, they identified them as the designated victims.
Three bodies riddled with hundreds of bullets lay on the pavement outside the factory. But these corpses were not those of the Rea clanmen. In fact, they had nothing to do with the Camorra.
At first, they said those guys had been members of the Camorra, but shortly afterwards, they said they were just 3 workers of the Russo pasta factory, and it had all been a mistake.
Despite the meticulous planning, one of the hit squad guys started firing, not realizing that the 3 guys in the car in front of the factory were actually 3 ordinary workers. Even if their car looked similar to the one the Rea clan members had been using, they were innocent people.
It was a mistake that unfortunately claimed the lives of 3 young men.
Salvatore De Falco, Rosario Flaminio, Alberto Vallefuoco. These are the names of the young men. They had led a normal life, had held an honest job, and had a family waiting for them at home.
Alberto was 24. He would have turned 24 the following week. He died on the 20th and would have turned 24 on the 26th. Alberto had a girlfriend, and they decided to get married. Unfortunately, their plans were foiled. He died because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I've heard this so many times, and every time it pisses me off. It's them who are in the wrong place. The others. Those who kill, those who shoot us, those who poison us, those who steal our dreams. They're in the wrong place, not the decent people.
The pasta factory massacre changed everything. The Cirella clan had made an unforgivable mistake, a mistake that cannot go unpunished.
The police would not give up because they had to find out who did it. So there were roadblocks all over the place. You couldn't go anywhere.
But the police were not the only problem for the Cirellas. The pasta factory massacre had forever jeopardized not only public safety, but also the clan's prestige.
They had lost much of their reliability in the criminal environment. Nobody wanted to be associated with a gang of cocaine addicts who couldn't even tell a member of the Camorra from a poor worker.
Within a few months, the situation had totally changed. For the clan, it had almost become impossible to continue their business. The Cirella household started to run out of money.
My brother asked Modestino for some money, since his life was ruined after what he had done. But Modestino didn't give him any. My brother threatened to report them to the police. So Modestino called me and said, "You'll have to solve this. He's your brother, otherwise we'll do it." He wanted me to kill my brother. I told him not to worry, that I would take care of it.
But neither Modestino nor Patrizia would take care of Carmine. The police did.
Carmine was arrested for trying to steal a radio receiver out of a civilian police car, parked inside the court of a police station at Castello di Cisterna.
After Aniello's death and the pasta factory massacre, another terrible blow hit Patrizia. A blow that could be crucial not only for her, but for the fate of the whole clan.
Carmine was brought to the penitentiary in Secondigliano, and at that point, Carmine expressed his will to cooperate with the law enforcement officers.
I always believed he had already decided to cooperate. He carried out the theft just to be arrested. He wanted to create an opportunity to establish a connection with a member of law enforcement.
When I heard that my brother was a police informer, I was very upset. Even though my brother knew nothing, apart from the pasta factory killings. He didn't know any names, he didn't know the people, he didn't know what we had done. He hardly knew anything. But they really wanted me.
Since we knew we had this problem with Carmine Franzese as our sole reporting witness, we tapped his prison visits, and we wiretapped a conversation he had with his sister. After that visit, we questioned her. During our questioning, the young woman obviously figured out that if she wouldn't cooperate, she'd be the target of our investigations.
Patrizia had her back against the wall. Carmine's collaboration led the police onto her tracks and onto the tracks of the whole Cirella family for the first time.
When Modestino heard my brother was informing the police, he told me he had to die. He said, "Since your brother is talking, we'll all end up in jail. Tell us where he is, and we'll take care of him.
But Patrizia didn't even give it a single thought. To her, the clan was not worth such a huge sacrifice. She didn't care about the clan anymore.
They did coke. They were addicts. So sooner or later, they would get in trouble. I also didn't like some of their attitudes. Modestino, for example, rolled up a banknote and gave it to my daughter, Antonella. Then he asked her, "Antonella, what do you do with this?" Antonella would put it close to her nose. I just couldn't allow such things to happen.
Patrizia saw her daughter get in touch with death and evil. That was the final break with Patrizia's second past and the beginning of a new journey.
Aniello always used to say, if anything happened to him and his relatives misbehaved, I should take my child and leave straight away. I decided to become an informer in order to be able to raise my daughter. I had already lost 2 children and didn't want to lose Antonella as well.
In February 1999, Patrizia Franzese voluntarily showed up at the office of prosecutor Giuseppe Borelli to begin her journey as a police informer.
Patrizia's cooperation was important. First of all, because she was a suspect. She was an insider to the internal processes of the Cirella clan. She was able to confirm certain things. She was able to give more detailed information than her brother regarding the reasons for the killings at the Russo pasta factory.
Patrizia's testimony allowed the police to shed a light on all of the criminal activities of the Cirella clan. It helped to identify the killers of the massacre at the pasta factory, which had claimed the lives of 3 innocent young men.
One morning, I went to work as usual. I had just arrived at the factory and sat at my table when I got a phone call from my wife. It was shortly before 8 a.m. She said, "They just called. They're going to arrest them." I did feel some satisfaction at that moment. But deep inside, I knew I wasn't going to get anything back. No one is ever going to give me back my son.
In July 2007, Patrizia was sentenced to 18 years for the homicide of Raffaele Bianco. After spending 2 years and 10 months in jail, Patrizia was released in 2009 thanks to a collaboration. She was brought to a protected, undisclosed location.
When you live under protection, the first thing you feel is fear. The fear someone will find you or see you. You can't use your name. You can't be in touch with your relatives. Now I have done my time. I have paid for what I've done. I have reconnected with my children, and I lead a peaceful life. We did suffer a lot. But if I was to compare the difficult life I have now to the comfortable but dangerous life I used to have, I'd choose this life for myself and my kids.
Per me e per I miei figli.
After 10 years under house arrest, Patrizia Franzese ended her prison term in August 2016. Today, almost 20 years after she began to cooperate, Patrizia is a free woman.